Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Yes, I'm sitting on the floor. I apologize if the lighting is terrible and if you hear anything in the background. I do have a fan on. It is very hot in here. So I actually don't know 100% what I look like. I hope that it looks okay and decent. I am very blind. I am sitting on the ground and doing this video because I lost sunlight, and I did my makeup because I was bored, and I did a Lolita cord. I was going out and about all day today, so I was like, well, I don't want to waste being in this cord and doing my makeup, so here I am. By the way, just wanted to let everybody who is interested that I am going to be doing a how I make my Lolita socks tutorial soon. It's just going to be a very quick video because it's actually a very quick project. However, I am experimenting with a different trim that I found at Joann's, so I want to see how that goes first, and then once I finish that I will update you guys, because then I'll maybe have a second way that you guys can make your own Lolita socks. I'm also going to be going and doing the vintage finds slash thrifting finds to make things lollyable, or to find things that are lollyable, or to turn vintage things into Lolita friendly things for classic Lolita and other stuff. I'm going to be doing that ASAP. However, I really wanted to do it with Bree because she has a lot of experience in vintage fashion, and she also does Lolita fashion, and it would just be really handy to be able to go out and about and vlog things with another person around. So that is a plan, and I'm planning on doing those videos by the end of the summer, so look out for them. For the meantime, we are going to be doing a video about Lolita terminology. And yes, this is a video that many Lolita YouTubers touch on, and also bloggers. You can find videos like this talking about different Lolita terminologies in probably every Lolita channel. But the difference here is that I'm going to be trying to tell you guys Lolita terminology that I feel like is never really talked about in these videos. Of course, this is just from my own experience, so I'm sure there's probably some videos that do touch on these things, but I just wanted to say some things that I had to learn in my Lolita journey, not through any forums, but literally just learning as I went. And it's a lot of usually online terminology that you see that you only figure out usually once you start doing those things in Lolita. So I'm going to be saying some that are probably going to be no-brainers, but I just created a small list so that it might be handy for some people. And also, some of these might be just things that me and my friends say, but I think it's pretty understood in most of the Lolita community. So let's get right into it. So my first term that I came up with was Proto Lolita. So Proto Lolita is Proto Lolita. So it's basically in the name, but I'm going to show you guys a few examples on the screen as I talk about it. So I would describe Proto Lolita as the prototype to Lolita, or the predecessor of Lolita, what was happening before Lolita was an established fashion. So there's a lot of street snaps that kind of show off some of what Lolita was becoming. It's a lot of what a lot of people might consider casual Lolita now, depending on your own preferences. I really love wearing Proto Lolita. I think there's so much more interesting things happening in it. Personally, I think there's a lot of experimentation because Lolita wasn't even a fashion yet considerably, so of course there's going to be experimentation. I just find it really fun, super interesting to look at, and it's very easy to wear, especially offering a lot of tank tops and other kinds of unknown things in Lolita that you would think are not supposed to be worn. So that's Proto Lolita. Old school Lolita. Now this sounds like I'm being stupid by saying these things, but I promise you there's a reason I'm leading up to. So old school Lolita is usually considerable between, you know, the 1990s up until around 2006, and some may even go to say 2000 up to 2010. I would probably say 2006 would be considered the era. However, there are things that were made after that that still very much looked and was made similar to the things before that. But that is what would be considered old school Lolita fashion. I'm putting pictures on the screen. There is a lot of more simplicity in colors. There isn't, prints are not very apparent in these times. There is a lot more attention to detail in terms of textures and fabrics, lace. There's so much intricate lace. It's what is my favorite part about old school Lolita. A lot more, it's very doll-like. I know a lot of people don't like saying that, but it's very doll-like, baby doll-like. That's why a lot of the baby doll dresses were very common. Maybe the Starshine Bright was very huge, as well as Angelic Pretty, showing some pieces of both of those things up here from that time. All those things. Next is traditional Lolita. So the reason why I said those first two is because traditional Lolita is kind of a term describing what we think looks old school but actually isn't. So meaning inspired by old school. Traditional Lolita would be something like if you're wearing the baby doll releases, re-releases from Baby, and also wearing, you know, modern things going along with it. It's essentially anything that looks old school or comes off as an old school type of flair, but isn't actually or isn't completely old school or worn exactly like how they would. So essentially think of someone wearing a vintage inspired fashion, so something that is maybe a 60s looking dress, but is not actually from the 60s, and maybe everything else that they're wearing is also from not the actual 60s, but could look like it actually is. So it's very inspired, essentially. Okay, now into the actual abbreviations. So a lot of these are actually brand names that I wanted to tell you guys about because I think that they should be known. So ETC, what is ETC? Well, if you're on my channel a lot, you probably know that it's Emily Temple Cute. It's also a very good brand for old school / traditional / proto Lolita looks. I know, again, we say old school a lot when referring to traditional Lolita, and I don't think that that's actually a bad thing. I think people who are really into old school know the difference, so I don't really think it's a bother, but I just think it's good to be aware of what the differences are. And then VW for Vivienne Westwood. Vivienne Westwood is a very known brand for punk fashion and just higher fashion, but it was a very huge push in Lolita fashion and from the past, but I would say even today. Like we're going into the next one, but Vivienne Westwood is a very significant brand for Lolita, so I think that that should be known. And then the next one, referencing off of Vivienne Westwood, is RHS, which is Rocking Horseshoes. Vivienne Westwood has the iconic rocking horseshoes. I know that it is one of like the design replicas that we kind of are okay with. And Lolita KC. So this one's probably talked about in a lot of videos, but a KC is essentially usually referring to a bow, but it can also be referring to any kind of headdress. It's Katusha, and a Katusha is a Russian word, derives from a Russian word that in Japan they just so happen to be using in terms for at least Lolita fashion headwear. So, but usually in reference to a head bow. UTKs. Now you probably have heard OTKs from a lot of people, and I'm sure you probably can figure out what UTK is, but UTK is under the knee socks, and I'm a huge fan of it. I'm sure a lot of other old schools are. I really think that they should become more popular all in general in Lolita. I know the like forbidden knee thing was a thing for a minute. I don't think it's really that big of a thing anymore, at least in the Western world, but I actually really like the way knees look in Lolita, and not to sound weird or anything, but I just think that I don't like when I wear UTKs and it looks almost like I'm wearing tights. I like that kind of space between my leg wear and my dress, so UTKs all the way. By the way, what I'm going to be showing you is a UTK tutorial, not an OTK tutorial, although I'm sure it'd probably work out. LJ. LJ would stand for live journal, and this is more for people who weren't active on live journal ever, and that's a lot of younger people. I was never active on it, but I think it's a good thing to know when people are talking about things online and referencing forums and all those things. So LJ is live journal. LM, lace market. If you are into Lolita at all and bought any of your first pieces, I'm sure you've heard of it, but LM is lace market. CC, now this is one that me and my friends use a lot, and CC stands for closet child, and as you guys know, I love closet child, and if you've never bought from closet child, you really should look on their website because honestly it's a lifesaver and I love them to death. And then the last but not least is MTO, and that is made to order, and I'm sure a lot of people are excited to get their MTOs from AP, Angelic Pretty, to get their SC, which was another one, Sugary Carnival releases. Why do we have so many abbreviations? Probably just because we're a very big online community, and I also kind of like the secretiveness of it. I like that normies don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, so yeah, so thank you for sticking around to probably a point in this video, but I thought it'd be fun to make, so see you guys later, bye!